Hello, BookTube. I originally wasn't going to make a July progress report about my July reading, and I thought I missed the window to make a Friday Reads video yesterday. So I was just going to pass on both kinds of access status taking videos that we tend to make on BookTube. But then I saw a whole bunch of cool kids making those exact kinds of videos. And also BookTube's anti-cool kid, David Murphy, who made a 5-hour video. I lost consciousness a couple of times during this length, but it seemed to me to be at least partly a what I've been reading recently or what I read in July type thing. So I thought, as long as that's happening, I might as well chip in. I don't really know what this video is. It can't be a lock, stock, and barrel July report. I read 98 books in the month of July, and in my own defense, I don't think I need one, but in my own defense, 2 of those books were very long and very involved. That's why the number isn't higher. That's why I didn't hit my goal for the month. But 2 of those books were brain twisters. But I obviously couldn't make a video about that, right, about that many books. So instead, I'm going to do a kind of hybrid of recent reading that I want to do. Maybe this is closer to a Friday Reads than it is to a July progress report. July had a lot of good reading in it. A lot of good reading. I continue to have great luck with private eye fiction. Really, I've only had one bad experience. I've been reading private eye fiction all throughout 2025, but there was Jim at Mystery and Mayhem made an event for it in July, Private Eye July, so I doubled up on it. Really, the Mike Hammer novels are the only bad experience that I've had with private eye fiction in the entire year of 2025. So I was really happy to double up on that during the month of July. And Rocket Summer this year was a huge success for me. I mean, I only hear positive things about it from all of you, too. It's a great event. It's a Michael K. Vaughan event, so it's a great event. Rocket Summer, I didn't know quite what I was going to do. I ended up mostly devoting my reading to rereading what we could uncharitably call mid-list science fiction that I hadn't read in decades. 30, 40, even 50 years. And that was great. I rediscovered a lot of authors that way. A lot of authors I'm going to want to pursue now that I am 28. Whose intelligence or nuance was largely passed on me when I first read them. That was fantastic. So those events were good. I also did a huge amount of reading and rereading. Off the charts, just not mentioned on BookTube. But I can't really. We'll go over a few books, just a few books of all different types for this video, and we'll call it whatever we're going to call it. So the first one that I want to mention is one that I just recently read. I thought it was very, very good. I need to hunker down with the finished copy and reread it slowly. This is by Nicholas Boggs, and it is Baldwin, A Love Story. And it's about the author James Baldwin, who I am rather heretical on BookTube in that I have never really liked James Baldwin's work. To me, there's an archness to it, an artificiality to it, that I think it has a lot in common with Truman Capote. I've never liked either one of them very much. I hear people on and off BookTube, but mostly on BookTube, just singing hosannas of praise for instance, Giovanni's Room, which not only have I never thought it was an emotionally affecting story, but more importantly and more damningly, I never bring this up because Baldwin fans won't hear it, I've always thought it wasn't a very honest book either. I think there's more honesty in 2 or 3 chapters of Edmund White about, for instance, the gay experience than anything in James Baldwin. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Certainly, a lot of the readers that I've seen on BookTube are not readers I would dismiss, and they sing praises of this author. This book was the first thing I've read that seriously made me think about that. Seriously made me think of the ways in which I might be wrong if I am wrong. And of course, Baldwin is great. When I'm not encountering him as a writer of fiction, he's great. To listen to read nonfiction interviews, this might be a masterpiece. So I'll need to really hunker down with it and then come back to you on it. Then I read this thing. We've seen this on this channel, Joanne Paul's book, Thomas More, A Life. This is a new biography of Thomas More. I liked it. It is... I don't want to block the baby because she's, as usual, she's being very cute. I like this. It is... it's very personal. I hate to use the word in this case, but novelistic. It's very novelistic. I didn't find that it was taking too many liberties for all that. I liked it. This is another one where I need to hunker down with the finished copy when I get it. But when I was done with it, I felt the gravitational pull of a rabbit hole. Now, I resisted because a Thomas More rabbit hole would be immense. We've seen you saw on this channel that gigantic Riverside Shakespeare-sized collected works of Thomas More. If I lost myself in that, you wouldn't see me again for the rest of the year. So I had to be careful about it. But there was one biography that I wanted to reread, what I consider to be the most eloquent biography of Thomas More, and that is by R.W. Chambers. This is a new cover. They're all using the same Holbein portrait. This horrible Holbein portrait where he hasn't shaved, and he is. You can tell if you know what to look for. You can tell that he's really uncomfortable. He's covered in furs and his chain of state and the hat of a statesman, and you can see the sheen of sweat on his face because it was boiling hot in the room, and he had to wear all this stuff while Holbein was doing all sorts of charcoal sketches and head preparations and whatnot. But they all use this now. This isn't. I had a hardcover of this with a dust jacket that had no illustration. This is from 100 years ago, but it is wonderful. Oh my, R.W. Chambers is wonderful anyway. I should check and see if any of Chambers is on Project Gutenberg, because all this stuff is great. All of his writing is great. His Thomas More book isn't even the greatest thing that he wrote, but it's all the same facts as the Paul book. But just, it's more eloquent. It's, trying to keep up with the bee's cuteness. It's more eloquent. It's also, a little bit of an uncharitable point, but still necessary to say, it's far more literate than the Paul book. Not in the sense of finishing sentences, but in the sense that Chambers has just read more. In original languages, out of original languages, offhand knowledge of phrases and quotations from Lucan or the Bible or Perseus or Horace. He's just more literate. And it works. Thomas More was intensely literate. It works. It adds an element to his biography that is not present in the one that I just read, the modern one. So I reread this one. I had a hardcover copy of this thing. I lost it in a house fire. It's a pretty epic way to go. Also a pretty ironic way, considering Thomas More's victims, who were all burned. But I loved it. I loved it all over again. And it led me, of course, to the fons et orgo of Thomas More rabbit holes, if you don't count his own writings. I was going to stay clear of that giant hardcover. So I read William Roper's book. William Roper's life of his father-in-law, Thomas More, which is not long, which is kind of dumb because William Roper was kind of dumb, but there's the same Holbein portrait. But fascinating, just fascinating. That was sort of it was a tiny little thing, and it was a capstone to my mini Thomas More rabbit hole. Then I reread Alan Peskin's biography of James Garfield, which is great. It's, I think, the best thing that's ever been written on Garfield. And the reason why I reread this is because I reread James Blaine's book, 20 Years of Congress. I talked about it on this channel. I got the bug in me, so I pulled down my old copies and read them. Huge digression from my reading. It took a huge amount of time to reread those volumes. Boy, are they good, though. Just that 19th century eloquence, just... they're really good. And of course, Garfield is a big presence looming over Blaine's life, because Blaine watched him get shot. As Blaine knew him, respected him, but didn't like him, worked with him when he wasn't working against him. They had what used to be a quintessential American political relationship. That used to be true for centuries. It was true with Blaine and Garfield. It was true with Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan. It's unrecognizable. Now there is only one political relationship now. You kneel on both knees, not figuratively. You literally kneel and you literally kiss the ring of Donald Trump. It is just worship. It is just personal fealty to the boss. It's the mafia. So there isn't any of this business of I'm going to work with him and then I'm going to work against him. No, not anything like that. Jamie Raskin, on bended knee, has begged for his life and been granted it temporarily. That's it. That's all of American political life now. There are only political relationships that exist. But once upon a time, they were far more complicated. Once upon a time, if you got elected senator from your state, it was assumed that you had all the pride of Lucifer. And you weren't going to let a president walk all over you. Same thing with Supreme Court justices. That was assumed. And not only was that assumed, the Founding Fathers were counting on that to stop the country from becoming the possession of one man. And Garfield was a fascinating figure along those lines. Prickly even when he wasn't trying to be, and this author captures it I'm pretty sure this book's on print, but this author captures it perfectly. It's a wonderful presidential biography and a wonderful political biography as well. Then we have something by Rachel Lee Perez. This is The Real Jaws, the attacks that inspired the movie. And this is an account of presumably one rogue shark from 100 years ago in the New Jersey shore on Matawan Creek. Presumably it was one shark. I've heard some experts say it was a juvenile great white. The juvenile great whites are really, really dangerous animals to encounter because they've got most of the power of an adult great white, but they have no knowledge, they have no experience. So they don't know that the human in front of them isn't good eating. They're willing to take a try. Hi, baby. How are you doing? I'm trying to talk to the humans about books. You don't care about books, do you? No, you don't. How's the baby? Do you want to get down? We can't just smooch for an hour, baby. I'm on camera. Do you want to get down? Here, come down. There you go. There you go. Okay. All right, so we can put this over here. I guess that's not going to happen every day, so don't get used to it. Where was I? Right. In this incident, a shark, presumably the same shark, kept attacking people in a very small area in a very small amount of time. And some experts have said it was a juvenile great white who would account for the power of the thing. But one of the attacks was made when the shark went up the Matawan Creek, quite a distance. That signals a bull shark. Bull sharks can do that. Great whites can't. They can do it, but it's an extreme danger to their life, and they won't do it. Even juveniles won't, unless they're impelled to. And what would be the reason? Probably a bull shark. The shark famously was never caught, so we'll never know for sure. And this is an account of that. I haven't read this yet, but I read. There were two books on these attacks about 30 years ago now. 12 Days of Terror and Close to Shore. Close to Shore is terrifically readable. 12 Days of Terror is more of a sociological study. It's not quite as readable, but it's far more thorough. They're both wonderful. I have a hard time believing that this thing will be any different, will be better in any sense than either one of them. I doubt it'll be as readable as the Persico book, and I doubt that it will be as thorough as the other one. But we'll see. Could surprise me. Then this next one is by Jonathan Mahler. It's Gods of New York. And as far as I can tell, it is a study of just a few years in the 1980s in New York City, when everything was in turmoil. The government of the city famously was changing. The priorities of that government were changing. AIDS was running rampant, was starting to appear, and leaving people totally mystified and horrified as it got worse and worse. And a whole bunch of other factors, including the city vying with the federal government. And I think this is just basically that. What does the subtitle say? Egotists, Idealists, Opportunists, and the Birth of the Modern City, 1986 to 1990. I'm very, very familiar with the New York of 1986 to 1990. Very, very familiar with it. Haven't read this thing, but I am hoping that I love it. The nightmare scenario here would be that the author encountered and describes a much different New York than the one that I encountered, a fraudulent one. Actually, the nightmare scenario would be if I look at the author photo of Jonathan Mallor and it turns out that he wasn't born in 1990. But I guess I'm going to have to face that nightmare scenario, right? And so are you. If you're 20 right now, when you're 45, you're going to be reading, if we all survive, you're going to be reading histories of the pandemic of 2020. Is it going to be like you remember? We'll see. I'm up for it either way. Then we have something that this was incredible. I loved it. I strongly recommend it. This is by Paul Ruditis, and it's called Frankenstein Lives. And it is a full dress history of the monster, of the Frankenstein monster, on the stage, on the screen, on the little screen, on pastiches, everything. This reminded me a lot of what was the name of that book? From Holmes to Sherlock. What was the name? I praised it. I'm blurbed on the paperback and I can't remember the name. There was a book that came out. We saw it on this channel. It came out like 8 years ago, something like that, studying the cultural life of Sherlock Holmes. All the cultural expressions of Sherlock Holmes. This thing does the same thing for the Frankenstein monster. It's wonderful. Just wonderful. If you are a Frankenstein fan, you have got to pre-order this book. Or get your library to get a copy. I don't remember when it comes out, but it is well worth your time. Then we have something by a novel by Paula Byrne. This is 6 Weeks by the Sea. And it is Jane Austen in love. I don't mean to be dismissive. I'm only being dismissive because I've never read a book on the theme of Jane Austen in love that was any good. This might be the thing that breaks that streak. This is a novel about, Jane Austen in love. I haven't read it yet. I don't know how good it is or how predictable it is. It is born from the idea that the hope, the dream, the yearning that so many Jane Austen fans have to map her novels onto her life. Jane Austen fans, when they are caught up in the absolute enchantment of her novels, don't like the idea that she might have been unpleasant, personally, or boring, or off-putting, or so unwelcomely opinionated in a bad way that no one wants to be her friend. Certainly not want to marry her. Jane Austen fans, when they fall into the spell of the novels, they don't want that Jane Austen to be real. So they come up with stories about how, she almost married, or she came close, or she pined for somebody her whole life, and is that reflected in, Mansfield Park or whatever. I'm always up for Jane Austen fiction, so I'll take it. I don't have high expectations of it. Then we have a second printing from Marvel Comics. This is one of their Michael K. Vaughan style $120, $100 omnibus editions, these big hardcover omnibus editions. Those omnibus editions, Marvel prints them. They're reprints of their vast back catalog of titles. They print them and then they let that print go out of print. And sometimes those volumes become expensive to find. And this one, I believe, has become expensive to find. Now there's a second edition. So that won't do anything to affect the collectability of the first edition. But it will be a boon to comic readers who don't want to pay twice or three times the cover price for this. This is an omnibus edition of Tomb of Dracula, with that collects all of Marvel's Tomb of Dracula comic book run that Michael K. Vaughan and I have praised endlessly on his channel and my channel, with artwork by Gene Colan. Jerry Conway, I think, did a lot of the writing for this, where Count Dracula is the main character. He's not a good guy. He's a villain, a bombastic villain. I used to joke with my friends back when this was coming out, issue by issue, that as much as Thor refers to himself at the time in Marvel Comics, referred to himself in the third person, it's nothing compared to how many times Dracula does. I think in the entire run of this series, which went on for years, I don't think he ever uses the pronouns I or me. He's always talking about Dracula, like Dracula was a different person, or a really cool person. And it's wonderful. Gene Colan never did better panel layouts than in this series. And now we get this hardcover anthology offered again. And, I might get this. I have the e-copies, where the artwork is zoomable. but I might get this anyway. I wasn't going to pay $400 for it, but I might pay $100 for it. So that's great. Glad that Marvel is reprinting this. Then we have something by Douglas Boyne. I think we saw this already on this channel. This is another of the steady trickle of books on ancient Rome coming out in 2025. It's a steady trickle. It's not just one or two titles like it was last year. This is Clia of Rome. This is very, very... There was a book that I just reviewed. We saw it on this channel as well, called Fulvia. And what Clodia and Fulvia knew each other. If women wrote memoirs at the time, or if any of those memoirs survived, if the letters survived, if anyone thought to collect their letters, we'd know that. We'd know everything they thought about each other. They knew each other. Their lives revolved around the same worthless man. And they were both enemies of Cicero. And this is a biography of Clodia that is considerably more effective than the biography of Fulvia. Don't quite know why. I assume that it's just a different approach of the two authors. But I enjoyed this a lot more. I'll be writing about it. It is worth your time. Actually, the Fulvia book is too. I just don't think you're going to agree with the Fulvia book's author's approach. I think you don't need to read. I mean, we don't have any direct evidence of Fulvia except secondhand accounts from people who knew her. There's obviously no video. There's no audio. There's nothing like that. But you get the strong impression that she was an awful person. None of her husbands could stand her. It wasn't exactly a high bar to cross in ancient Rome, but still. I have always had the impression that Clodia had a harder life, a harder lot in life, and also may have been a more formidable person, even though in history's hindsight, it's Fulvia who looks more formidable. But I enjoyed the Fulvia book too, but this I enjoyed a lot more, so I recommend both of them, but Clodia more. Then we have something that I am going to read probably this weekend. This is We the People. It's a history of the U.S. Constitution by Jill Lepore, whose book These Truths was wonderful. History of the United States was wonderful. This is not going to be as wonderful. It's not Jill Lepore's fault. This is a history of the Constitution, and I'm avoiding books like that. I'm avoiding books about the Constitution. As much as I'm a Supreme Court junkie, I'm avoiding books about the U.S. Supreme Court because all of that has changed. The U.S. Supreme Court is in the employ of the autocrat who runs this country. And that autocrat has become an autocrat by doing unconstitutional things. In his second and permanent administration, Donald Trump has taken, I think, 171 official acts as president, and all 171 of them have been unconstitutional. The Constitution specifically prohibits all 171 of them. Now, that in a drastic oversight on the part of the founding fathers, something can be unconstitutional without being illegal. I want to stress all 171 things are also illegal. It is illegal. In addition to being unconstitutional, it is illegal for a president of the United States to wreck the economy with tariffs. That is illegal. It is illegal for the president of the United States to cut off funding that was already earmarked by Congress. The House of Representatives, that is illegal. It is also unconstitutional, and nothing's happened. The Founding Fathers were counting on, as many people have pointed out, the Constitution is only a piece of paper. It only works if everybody agrees that it works. And the Founding Fathers were counting on that agreement springing from the fact that everyone involved had ambitions of their own. So no one was going to lay flat for somebody else. And that even if a few people did, not everybody would. And everybody has. So the Constitution doesn't mean anything anymore. It's as silly to talk about the fact that the Trump regime is doing unconstitutional things as it was to say the same thing when Hitler took power. There were people in Germany who pointed out in newspaper columns, for Pete's sake, that everything he was doing was unconstitutional. That, what is this? We have a constitution. I can show you the articles that this is not allowed by the Constitution. We won't go down this rabbit hole, but all of those people, the people who wrote those editorials, the people who said those things, all of them, 100% of those people either ended up in California or ended up dead. All of them. No one stayed at their desk at CNN just saying that in polite terms all the way through to 1946. No one did. All of the people who pointed out that everything that Hitler did was unconstitutional either emigrated or were murdered. And so much for the German Constitution, and so much for the American Constitution. Well, I mean, it is completely unconstitutional for the president to decide and for his jackbooted thugs to enact a concentration camp on American soil, a death camp, a camp where the aim is to kill the prisoners. That's completely unconstitutional, and it has happened, and no one has stopped it. No one has stopped it. Thousands of people have agreed to do the construction. Thousands of people have agreed to do the administrative work, the paperwork, the taxes, the filing, the policing, the guarding. This is going to be almost too bitter to read. The only reason that I'm going to do it is because Jill Lepore is so great. But she's basically writing about Lothlorien. She's writing about an America that doesn't exist anymore, and that is never going to exist again. The minute you realize that the Constitution is just a piece of paper and that it only has force if we agree it has force, it has no force anymore. But anyway, well, let's go back to The Trickle. This is by Dexter Hoyos, who has done a number of books that I have enjoyed. This is his new book, Scipio Africanus, The First Imperator, a biography of the man who defeated Hannibal. There is a biography to read. I haven't read this, so it's on my list. It's one of yet another ancient Roman title that I'm looking forward to in 2025. I'm not a fan of Scipio Africanus, and I'm also not a fan of authors going all TikTok-y in order to sell their book. Scipio Africanus was not the first imperator. But that Hoyos might not have dictated that. He might not have had anything to say about that. So, and the stories here are great, because defeating Hannibal was by far from the only thing that Scipio Africanus did, and all of it's fascinating. And we have a pretty good bevy of sources on the subject. You can write a substantial book on this person. So I'm looking forward to it. Haven't read a Scipio book since, what's his name? Oh man, what was his name? The book was actually called Greater Than Hannibal. He wrote a biography of, was it Fuller? He wrote a biography of Caesar as well. Well, anyway, I haven't read a new biography of Scipio Africanus in a long time, so this is going to be a lot of fun, I'm sure. Then we have something by Peter Frisch. Peter Frisch, I've also read a number of his books, and I like a lot of them. He wrote a book called An Iron Wind that is really, really good. It's the most... Come here. Come up here, baby. Come up here. You can do it. Come on, baby. You can do it. Come on. Oh. Sorry, we're having a little bit of a drama going on there. Peter Frisch. His book, An Iron Wind, I think is his most revisitable book. That's about World War II. And he has a new book coming out, and greatly looking forward to it. It's called 1942. And it's all about the explosion in size and scope of the Second World War. 1942 is the year when the Second World War stopped being the First World War. All over again. When it stopped being localized in any sense of the word, and achieved something like its epic scope. Of course, the epic moral scope, the epic battles and catastrophes that would result still in the future. But this is... Ordinarily, I don't really like single-year title histories. Ordinarily, they end up being a lie. The author is actually... They're saying, 1451, but they're actually going to talk to you about the 1440s, the 1450s, and the 1460s. Ordinarily, they're not... They're just meant to be digestible, I think, or something like that. In this case, you can very much write a history of 1942, and I'm hoping that this author does. I will try to remember to leave a link to any reviews of his books that I can find. I might not be able to find them. David Murphy might have to find them, but I know that I reviewed An Iron Wind. I know that I did, or it ended up on my year's list as a great book. Really looking forward to this one as well. Let me see here. We should probably finish up, shouldn't we? All right, let's finish up. This is another gigantic comic book anthology, so Hannah will be happy. This is another big hardcover anthology, and much like Tomb of Dracula, this one actually tempts me. I don't know if this is a reprint or not. You Marvel zombies will know. This is X-Men Blue and Gold. being reprinted in a big hardcover omnibus edition. And this was an era in X-Men comics. Chris Claremont was doing the writing, and I've mentioned before to comics fans that Chris Claremont is incredibly verbose as a comic book writer. He's comically verbose. Gigantic wall-sized blocks of prose that his characters are speaking, sometimes while they're falling or getting punched when they wouldn't be speaking anything. And when they're standing still, God help you. When his characters are standing still, it is novel-length exposition. It's totally out of control. He was a superstar by the time that habit really blossomed, and so editors couldn't tell him, knock it off. And it reaches something of a peak in this iteration of the X-Men. This is an iteration of the X-Men in which the team splits into two, a blue team and a gold team. One led by Scott Summers, Cyclops, and one led by Storm, who is not on the cover of this hardcover. I hope she's on the back cover. And the two teams didn't always see eye to eye, and it was a really good premise. The premise died almost on the operating table, but it was a really good premise. What would happen if you had two X-Men teams, both out there fighting the good fight, both out there, protecting a world that hates and fears them, but in different ways? It was a good opportunity to explore what a team would be like if Cyclops ran it as opposed to Storm running it. Not much came of that premise, but these issues feature incredible artwork by Jim Lee. Incredible art. The last real incredible artwork that he did before he became an executive who doesn't do regular comic book artwork anymore. The artwork in these issues is incredible. It has grown on me over the decades. I was buying these issues when they were coming out, even though I was complaining to my friends at the time that there's walls and walls and walls and walls of text. Ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. The level that it gets to. Even though I was complaining about that, I was still soaking these up for the Jim Lee artwork, and that tempts me to get Mutant Genesis in a big hardcover. That tempts me to do that. So you never know. This is coming out. Whether I get it in hardcover or not, it will be a reread for me. I haven't reread these issues since I read them when they were coming out. I don't know that I have e-copies of these, but it's a ride. It really is. The two teams are interesting. X-Men was doing really well at this time in Marvel's history, and I used to comment. I even sent a letter. Believe it or not, me firing off a letter to the editor. I even sent a letter saying that, as weird as it is for a dyed-in-the-wool Justice League fan such as myself, or a dyed-in-the-wool Legion fan, God help us, to admit it, one of the reasons why these particular two teams were so interesting to me is how limited they are in power. These are not overwhelmingly powerful teams. This is not the Avengers. You are forced by the relatively scrappy nature of the power sets involved. I mean, look at that cover. That's pretty good. They're pretty good power set there, but nothing overwhelming. And you are forced by that dynamic to concentrate on other things, to concentrate on teams and personalities. And that actually works. I don't know if that was Claremont's intention, but it actually works. I could very much stand to revisit these issues, and maybe I want to revisit them in a big hardcover, especially since just recently I used to rail against big hardcover omnibus editions as being unreadable, too heavy, you can't take them anywhere. And then I realized maybe I should get over myself, something that a lot of you have been yelling at the screen for years. But maybe what you do is you wait until the little dog is asleep at the foot of the bed. Frida doesn't migrate to my arms until she's really sleepy. It's only when she's really sleepy that she is willing to show me that she really loves me. Otherwise not really. And occasionally I get a lick on the face. But actual cuddling, she thinks that's for Protestants. So she doesn't do it. Unless once she's really sleepy, she migrates right up to here and just hugs me for hours and hours every night. But I realized that when the little dog is asleep at the foot of the bed, and I've only got the one dog now, I don't have a crowd of people to worry about, you just put a pillow on your lap, put the omnibus on the pillow, and Bob's your uncle. You're perfectly comfortable. Perfectly comfortable. So I might be in the market for more of these things. I will never have the 500 of them Michael K. Vaughan does, but I might be in the market for these latest offerings. But anyway, there you go. I don't really know what this video is. I've read a lot of these books. I'm going to read some of these books, so maybe this is a weekly reads. Maybe it is. Yeah, it actually is, isn't it? Because I didn't talk much about what I read in July. It was a lot of PI stuff. It was all the new releases for July. A lot of crappy fiction. A lot of second-rate history. Let's some highlights. Maybe I should do a highlight video of July. I could do that. That'd be a separate video. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up for now. Whatever this is. But I'll be back. Thank you, Booker T.